Welcome back, all my fight fans. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the UFC fight night that took place yesterday between Nassourdine Imavov and Israel Adesanya. I was really looking forward to this card. I thought it was absolutely stacked. A lot of people online were saying that this was like a free pay-per-view card. It was so stacked. I was looking forward to it. Unfortunately, didn't completely deliver, so we'll talk about it today. If you guys disagree with anything, let me know down below in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. And yeah, the first fight that I caught was the Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira fight. So I only watched 4 fights. I only watched the 4 fights that I predicted in my prediction videos, and my predictions didn't go all too great. I said in my prediction videos that, in my prediction video for this fight, that Said Nurmagomedov is a great fighter. I really like him. I like all the Dagestani fighters, but he's not one that impresses me too much, like Umar, Usman, Islam, some of the other Dagestanis who are, undefeated, but also a little bit higher in skill level. That being said, Said is very skilled. He's a very skilled fighter. I don't want to knock him on that, but I will knock him on his determination and his will to win, because a lot of the times when he loses, it seems like he loses because it's not so much a gas tank issue, but he doesn't have the will to take the fight from the other guy. And I found that in this fight. The first round, I thought Said did great. I thought he actually won the first round. He's a very tricky fighter. He's got tricky trips. He can choke you from just about anywhere. He's a master at the ninja choke. And I thought he had a good first round. Vinicius was, putting some things together himself. But in the second round, we really got to see Vinicius Oliveira striking. And I said in my prediction video, man, you can't count this guy out. This kid is very talented. And he showed it in this fight. I thought he won the second and third round. Overall, I thought this was the best fight that I watched out of the 4. It was kind of back and forth, and there was a lot of action. The other fights were a little bit lackluster, in my opinion. So the next fight that I watched was the Sergey Pavlovich and Jairzinho Rosenstruik fight. So I was looking forward to this one to see kind of Pavlovich kind of bounce back from those last 2 losses. Jairzinho, as much as I like him, he's a fantastic kickboxer. I like that he works behind the jab. Not many heavyweights do. But yeah, there's just something about him. I don't feel like, kind of like Said, I don't think he has that will to take the fight from the other guy. His corner was urging him after the second round, like, go out there, knock this guy out. You need to get the knockout in this fight. And he wasn't able to do that. It didn't seem like he wanted to go forward. He didn't want to risk getting knocked out by Pavlovich. And I kind of understand that because they used to train together. So he kind of knows the tendencies and the power coming from Pavlovich. But Pavlovich, on the other hand, I thought he was going to get the first round knockout. It looked like he had quite a few opportunities to get that KO. He wobbled Jairzinho a couple times. I think he even got a knockdown in the second or third round. So Pavlovich is another one of those guys where he really, if he wants to become champ, and he is fairly young for heavyweight, he's still got a lot of time to do this, but if he wants to become champ, he needs to take the fight from the other guy. He needs to fight like he did in the Aspinall fight, just maybe a little bit more measured, because he got into trouble there a little bit. But he had Aspinall on wobbly legs for a second, and then Aspinall knocked him out. So I think he needs to find that perfect balance between how he came out in the Aspinall fight versus how he came out in the Volkov fight. I thought he did good in the Jairzinho Rosenstruik fight yesterday, but yeah, we'll see what happens with Pavlovich. I was really expecting a first-round knockout, and it didn't seem like he was too urgent to get that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with him next. Next up, we had the fight that I was super excited for. When this fight got first announced, I'm like, this is a striking masterpiece. We're going to see a kickboxing clinic between Shara Bullet and Michael Venom Page. But I don't know. You guys can let me know what you guys thought about this fight. I thought it was kind of boring. I thought, Shara was having troubles going forward. He was landing leg kicks, but he didn't. I don't know if he landed a single punch to the head the whole fight. He could not get any of his combinations going. It seems like he has good volume going forward. Like, he can put his strikes together, but his footwork getting into the pocket kind of sucks. Like, he needs to work on his boxing, I think. His kickboxing is obviously elite. He has like 10 out of 10 kickboxing. But Shara Bullet seems to struggle a little bit with getting his feet in the right positions to cut angles and work his way to the inside. And I understand that it's MVP. It's like one of the hardest guys ever to get on the inside with. It's like him and like prime Conor McGregor, I think, or they're like impossible to get in on because there's so much power coming your way, and they blade their stance and they're constantly jumping in and out. So It's a tough style to deal with. I completely understand. I'm not like knocking Shara's performance, but he obviously needed to come forward a lot more if he wanted to do anything in that fight to make it look like he was winning. I thought it was a close fight. I don't know if 30-27 was the right scorecard. I thought Shara, was landing some good leg kicks, but obviously MVP did more to get it done. He was hitting the bigger shots. He was a little bit more accurate in his striking. Seemed like everything that MVP threw hit or was like very, very close to hitting. And MVP is a guy who I'm a huge fan of. I said it in my prediction video. I've been a fan of this guy for like 10 years. I really, really like his striking style, but I just fear that now that he's 37, not 27, he's losing a little bit of the speed and he's losing a little bit of the volume and aggression that he used to have. He used to be a little bit more, I'm going to hit you first, but now it seems like he's almost a complete counter striker, and it kind of made for a boring fight, and that's rare to see from MVP. I thought it was a boring fight. You guys might disagree and thought that it was electrifying, but I don't know. Something about that one, I had a fear deep in my heart that like maybe this would happen, that maybe their styles just they wouldn't match up quite how they were in my head, and maybe this would become a boring fight. But I didn't say anything in my prediction video because I didn't want to jinx it, but it happened. I don't think that was a great fight from either guy. I don't know where they go next. I would like to see MVP go back down to 170. I think there's a lot of great strikers down there for him to face. If he wants to stay at 185, obviously there's some great kickboxers there, but they tend to be more in the top 5. So we'll see. MVP, I think he could beat up Sean Strickland. I think he has a decent chance at beating Duplessis unless Duplessis gets a takedown. But I would love to see MVP go back down. And one guy who I'd love to see him face, this might be me just wanting to see MVP get knocked out now. I don't know what this is, but I really want to see Carlos Prates versus MVP. I feel like they're similar in height, maybe not exactly. I feel like MVP might be a little bit taller, but they got similar builds, and they got different styles of kickboxing. MVP is a little bit more karate style, more of a point style fighting, whereas Carlos is very Muay Thai heavy. He's not afraid to get hit, and he's got tremendous power. He might have more power than MVP, so I'd love to see that fight, but there's so many fights. MVP was saying that he might go up to 205 and fight Jiri just for the fun of it, just for the matchup. So I would love to see these fun fights with MVP. That's kind of why I wanted him to come over when he did come to the UFC. I wanted to see him just fight the top kickboxers. Don't worry about a belt. It's a little bit too late for that anyways. It's hard to come over to the UFC at like 36 and then somehow find a way to a belt. It's a little bit difficult. We're seeing that with Michael Chandler right now. But yeah, I would love to see MVP fight Israel Adesanya. I'd love to see him fight all the top kickboxers in the sport. I think he makes for fun fights still. I just think with the Shara fight, it might have been Shara's fault for not going forward as much. It might be MVP's fault for not striking first and being a little bit more of a counter striker in that fight. But something about it it wasn't as exciting as I was expecting it to be. Maybe I had my hopes too high. Maybe you guys enjoyed it. But yeah, that's how I felt about the Shara Bullet and MVP fight. I hope Shara bounces back. It sucks to lose your zero, but MVP, man, he's a tricky man to deal with, and hopefully he gets a big fight after this. Hopefully they just keep giving him these high-profile kickboxing fights. Then we got to get into the main event, and this was kind of sad to see. Now, I love Russian fighters, and I'm also French, so you would think that I would just be all in on Nassourdine Imavov, cheering for him, but I was cheering for Izzy going into this fight. Izzy's a guy who, when he first came into the UFC, I remember it like it was yesterday. It's crazy that he's already kind of at the end of his career. Feels like yesterday he was coming over to the UFC. But I remember when he first came over, he was lighting people up. I really liked him. Like when he first came over, I was like, this kickboxer is going to mess some people up in this division, unless he runs into Chimaev, which we'll see if that ever happens in the future. But I liked him. And then he started talking more on the mic, and he started getting more cocky and more cringe and just more anime talk and stuff like that. And I didn't really vibe with it. I was like, this is just too much. I don't like people who are this flashy. And I didn't really like Izzy during his whole title reign. I kept wanting guys to beat him. And then he finally lost to Jan Blachowicz. He finally lost to, Pereira. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I can like Izzy a little bit now because his ego has been humbled a bit. And I do really like Izzy. His striking style is super fan-friendly when he's not running away from people and just leg kicking them the whole fight like the Yoel fight. There's been a couple boring Izzy fights, but for the most part, especially when he's, a contender, except for this fight. When he's a contender, usually he's a very exciting fighter. He's going out there to find knockouts, and his striking is beautiful. I mean, if you're a fan of kickboxing, you know that Israel Adesanya has some of the most gorgeous striking you've ever seen in your life. It's beautiful the way he strikes. So going into this fight, I really wanted him to get a win. He's 35 years old. There's not many prime years left in his career, so I wanted him to make one more run at the belt. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Shout out to Nasruddin Imavov, man. Like, he kept his composure in that first round, looking for the right shot. He stayed calm, just like a sniper would. And I thought he lost the first round. I thought Izzy had more leg kicks, a little bit more volume. But going into that second round, there's already memes about this all over Instagram. Izzy, like right in like the first 30 seconds, gets hit with like kind of an eye poke, and he kind of brushes the ref aside, almost like Alex Pereira did in the Jamal Hill fight. And then literally a couple seconds after that, Imavov, man, just caught him with two good punches. Like one good, I think it was like an overhand or a straight. And then as Izzy went to the ground, he hit him with another uppercut. And that was the end for Izzy. And that was kind of sad to see. But I'm happy for Imavov. You know, he's had a couple losses in the UFC, but they've been close. Like the Sean Strickland fight was very close, and he took that fight on short notice, preparing for a completely different style of fighter. I think if you run that fight back, I think he knocks out Sean Strickland. So I think this guy possibly could be champ. I need to see a little bit more from him. I know beating Izzy's like a pretty big accomplishment. There's not much more you can do than that. But I would love to see him face maybe one more guy in the top 5 or top 10, and then maybe challenge for the belt. Because I know Hazmat's next. We need to see Chimaev versus whoever wins between Sean and DDP, which I'll be breaking that fight down in a couple of days. You guys can expect that prediction video in about a day or two, and I'll break down that entire fight card. I'm really pumped for that one. It's not as stacked as some of the other pay-per-views are looking to be, but that's because it's in Sydney, and they're trying to pack it with Australian fighters. And Australian fighters, there's a couple great ones, don't get me wrong. Some of my favorite fighters of all time are Australian, like Robert Whittaker, but there's not a ton of ranked Australians, so that's why the card's a little bit weaker, but I'm excited to break that card down for you guys. That'll be out in, like I said, a day or two. So that's all that I have for today, guys. You guys can let me know down in the comments, what would you like to see next for Israel Adesanya? What would you like to see next for Imavov? Do you want to see him wait around for a title shot, or do you guys want to see him face another guy? If so, who would that be? Let me know what you guys want to see from Shara Bullet next. I'm sure he'll have many fights this year. He seems to be one of those guys that likes to stay super active. So hopefully we see another 4 fights from him this year. And yeah, if you guys have any other comments or questions, let me know down below in the comments. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.